What's going on, people? Good morning. Welcome to United View. Happy Friday, 1st of December. Pinch punch, 1st of the month, all of that stuff. Officially, for some people, officially going into the Christmas period. Some people got the trees up already. Some people are in it sort of late November. But a lot of people are like, no, as soon as it gets to 1st of December, just like the intro says, that's the switch. That's the switch. So good morning. Smash a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Like Captain Caveman says, Advent View. Yeah, this is where you start your Advent calendar as well, day by day, taking your bit of chocolate, taking your prize or your gift if you've got one of those types of ones as well.
Do you have an Advent calendar every year, Flex?
Nah, not all the time.
Yeah, I haven't had one for a while.
I haven't had one for a while. Advent calendars I used to have quite regularly, and then I just don't know. Sometimes I do, but not regular.
I got quite snobby with it as well, to be honest with you. Like, when you're younger and you just get like the gimmick one. So if you get like a Man United one, and you go, oh, it's cool. But then actually the chocolate's not that good in it. And as you get older, then you start going, if I'm going to get one, I've got to get a Cadbury's. I've got to get, some kind of chocolate
Galaxy make. You can't just get the program that you like watching. Get that chocolate. No, it's not. It's very plain. But we've got a lot to talk about this morning, man. The fallout from the Andre Onana situation has kind of carried on. There's obviously been some reports there with Ten Hag backing him. There's also been some situations and some reports from different outlets of how Onana's feeling potentially going into AFCON and the fact that he might lose his place and he's a bit worried. All of these things. So that kind of continues. Newcastle coming up as well. We've got to talk a little bit about that game. Obviously, we will have the main preview coming out later on today. INEOS and some of their transfer plans as well. British recruitment goes synonymous with the brand. They want to look at British players, etc., etc. We're going to talk about that. There was a couple of lines I saw yesterday on Man United being sort of interested in like a Mark Gay or Ivan Toney, and that's that's into the British recruitment. So yes, a lot to unpack. But let's get straight in to Erik Ten Hag, backing his guy, backing Andre Onana. He's made a big massive mistake. He still wants to stick it out and ride it out. What's the latest?
Right, so they've got a couple of different reports here over the last 24 hours or so. Rob Dawson from ESPN has said that Erik Ten Hag will continue to back Andre Onana as his first-choice goalkeeper and still believes it was the right decision to bring him in after the departure of David De Gea last summer. Ten Hag is likely to keep faith with Andre Onana for the Premier League trip to Newcastle tomorrow evening, unless Onana makes it clear he wants to be taken out of the firing line, which, let's face it, he's not that kind of guy to do that. Ten Hag believes the benefits of signing Andre Onana far outweigh the negatives because his style is better suited to the way the Dutchman wants his team to play. But just to get a bit of a contrast to this, maybe not his immediate future is under concern, but maybe his long-term future post-January is in a bit of trouble because Samuel Lutkers from the Manchester Evening News has said that Andre Onana is concerned he could lose his place at Manchester United as the number one if he represents Cameroon at the Africa Cup of Nations. So a lot to get into there, Flex. First of all, the bit we're saying that Ten Hag's backing his guy, still believes it was the right decision. It was the right decision. It was the right call. And he fits the way that Ten Hag wants Man United to play. I suppose the natural pushback to that will be, what is the way that Erik Ten Hag wants Manchester United to play?
Well, we've had the identity crisis since he's come here and gone through different versions of what that might look like. And really, even if you might have seen a glimpse in a couple of moves here or there, we don't know. We've also had in that time, obviously, Erik Ten Hag say, and depending on how you interpret his comments, he's not here to help us play like Ajax. That was a different philosophy. It was a different club with different values and different, demands. This is Man United. Our job is to win every game. And he hasn't really gone down that route. And obviously, we get the famous quotes of back in the past of wanting us to be the best transition team in the world and all these types of things that we remember, but we don't necessarily see. We've just been in such a run of games where every game is like, who cares about the style, just win. But then in the last couple of games, we've started to see some decent bits, some confident bits. So I think obviously with buying a keeper like Onana would suggest, obviously, you want to play possession football from the back. You want to build up through the keeper. You want a proactive keeper who plays a high line, who can, be almost like a second or third centre back when you push one of the other ones on, and he can fill in and just be really competent on the ball and set up attacks. That's, if you buy a keeper like Onana, that's exactly how you want to play, because that's his main attributes. That's his best attribute, as we can clearly see. His best attributes are not what your main attribute should be as a keeper, which is keeping the ball out of the net. It's not his main attribute. It's not.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Because I was talking about this after the game on Wednesday, and I said it yesterday during Match Day Reloaded too, that there is such a strange contrast between us in the Premier League and us in the Champions League at the moment, in terms of like recent form and the performances. You could say actually maybe there isn't that much of a difference in terms of, well, if Everton had taken their chances, it could have been a Galatasaray kind of game on Sunday, maybe. But I mean, in terms of like Onana, the last few games, he's done all right. He's literally done okay, as a lead judge would say, right? He's literally
that's why we're upset.
Okay.
He's done okay in the last few games and actually made good saves. I remember against Everton, there was one tipping over the bar, and there was one where he put it to one side and all that. And you go, actually, that's better. You know, that's kind of what we're looking for. Yeah, you're going, actually, that's better. But I think you and I have come to a similar conclusion here, where it's like, this is Andre Onana, you know, where you get like 4 or 5 games, or maybe a couple of months, maybe, where does literally done okay, does all right.
And just go under the radar of, you don't know his name.
Yeah, and you go, and you go, actually, today made some good saves, passing. I don't think we're not really playing out from the back at all that much at the moment. So I'm not really sure that's kind of benefiting or highlighting, extenuating his positives, shall we say. But the problem is that a game like Wednesday, he's always going to have that in his locker. And it's not like, say, you know, Alisson or Ederson or some other top goalkeepers where they have that in their locker, because Ederson's got a mistake in his locker. Alisson's got a mistake in his locker. Look when he played City the other weekend.
Yeah.
But with them, it feels like it's sort of one and done in that game. Whereas when it comes to Onana, the drop off is so severe in that game, whereby like it's not just one, it's the whole game. He's just like, it's out of action for. And I don't see that being ironed out for him. I just think
the type
that's
of mistake.
Him. Yeah,
like when Alisson made the mistake against City the other day when they nearly scored, it was from trying to kick it out and it went wrong. Like, I think for keepers who are proactive with their feet, they get most of it right. Amazing clipped passes, driven balls in behind, that sort of half volley or volley when they quickly throw it on the counter attack and out of their feet, pop it round the corner. Most of the time it goes right, but we've accepted with the likes of Ederson and Alisson for like the last 7-8 years that like those guys, sometimes they wait too long and someone shuts them down and it ricochets. That happens once in a while, but their fundamentals are sound. They don't do the floppy wrist. It's not shot stopping. They're shot stopping. You know, Alisson's the best keeper in the league. Like, because his shot stopping in the world, Alisson shot stopping is unreal. Like, even through all of the distribution things he does and how calm he is on the ball, when Liverpool go long periods with having the ball and being on top of teams, and then all of a sudden a team gets a big chance, it has to be a really good goal usually to beat him. He comes out, makes himself big, he gets down well. Yes, the Haaland one against City, he probably could have done better with that one. But again, that's not all the time. And it's not an absolute howler. It's like, probably expect Alisson to do a bit better there because he's actually good. But Onana's ones, like I said on the DR yesterday, and like, none of them make sense. They're just so calamitous. They look like mistakes from somebody who's not even. It looked like an outfield player in goal, and I just stick by that.
They're technical errors. They're technical errors, and like the technique just feels so wrong. He's a very like dramatic and erratic goalkeeper in the way he saves the ball as well. Like, you know, everything's very acrobatic. You know what I mean? And like, even so, the second goal, that free kick, the more I watch it back, I still don't try. Sometimes when a goalkeeper makes a mistake, I can see what they're trying to do and I can see the mind they've been caught in or whatever. Because I go, oh, maybe I've been in a similar situation with that, where you think you're going to do one thing and this happens, but I don't know what he's doing. I genuinely don't know what he's doing. That ball's in the middle of the goal and he's almost like dive past it, but trying to like scoop it up and almost tip it over the bar, and it's sort of gone. Again, I don't get it. The first goal, that's just an error of judgment, and that can happen, I think, as a goalkeeper, where you gamble, you get it wrong. The wall, you know, you've got the opposition players in the wall, they split, the ball goes through that gap. That's off the training ground. You could argue defenders be a bit more aware of that. They're so naive and all that kind of stuff. But also
for him, the only criticism I did have with that, because I was with you there, it's like, that's kind of like a well-worked free kick.
Well, ish, but you don't gamble.
He's guessed. Exactly. he's guessed. And really, if it goes up and over the wall, you clap the player who's taken the free kick. Anything your side, your fault. Your fault. Like if you're rooted to the spot because it's gone up and over, you just go, oh, bloody hell.
Well, and also as well, it's not as if on your side it's gone really, really in the corner as well. You know what I mean? So like you've taken that gap, but it's still too much to get over because it's right in the corner. It's still fairly central to where you were as well. So that's not as much of a howler as the second one, certainly. But the problem is that not that you want to single out one player as like, this is just it's entirely his fault that we're not going to get through the Champions League, because it is more than that. But if you were going to look at the single biggest point of failure in the Champions League this season, it would be him. It would be him, because it's not just one game. It's been Bayern Munich, Galatasaray twice. That's 3 games in one competition. That's a problem. That is an absolute problem. But at the same time, and this is what's weird too, Flex, is that so in the Premier League this season, we're actually bemoaning that we're not scoring enough goals. And actually defensively, we're all right. We're actually okay. We're on par as everyone else. In the Champions League, scoring goals isn't a problem. We've scored goals for fun. We're just conceding so many goals. And a lot of them, when they do go in, you do look at the goalkeeper and you go, I don't know about that. Now, I
every single time.
I said this in Matchday Reloaded yesterday. I'm not surprised to see these reports this last night and this morning saying that Ten Hag's going to back him. He's going to play, because of course he's going to play. Of course he's going to play at Newcastle.
He might do all right.
And he might do all right at Newcastle too. But I do think that maybe he does have a right to be concerned about AFCON, because if he comes in, if whoever comes in, whether it's Bayern, whether it's Tom Heaton, and they come in and they do the bare minimum, and they're not as erratic, I think there will be, that noise will get bigger. Like, I can't put it this, and this is going to sound very disrespectful, and I don't mean it to be like this, but I can't envisage a situation where he goes away with Cameroon, and during that time, we're like, I tell you what, he needs to get back really soon. We're really struggling. I can't envision it. Maybe I'm wrong with it, but I don't know. Well, that calming presence of having one of those. Because in pre-season, we played with Tom Heaton and go against Arsenal, and he did good.
Yeah, he's actually passing out from the back. We were like, bloody hell, I'll tell you what, Tom can do it. I think, for me, you're right. From a fan's perspective, that's what we would do. So when you said like that noise won't go away, and then if he goes away and then Bayern does well and it's just technically sound and there's just no controversy, or Tom Heaton, obviously we'll all be like, oh, you know what, let's carry on. But where I think Onana is safe, personally, I think is because Ten Hag's going to back him the whole way through the season. He's number one. I think we've seen it already, where even in Carabao Cup or anything like that, he's just always played him. Bayern hasn't even played him a single minute of a game, you know, because he wants Onana to settle down. Even if I believe he believes in him that much, that even if, you know, he keeps making mistakes coming up and stuff like that, or he has a few games off making mistakes, then there's another one. He'll just do that to the end of the season. He'll keep believing in him and put that down to, right, well, that was your first season. You know, out of 10, you've scored a 3, you've scored a 4 because you really struggled. Your challenge, I back you. Is next season, do better. And I just think he'll keep backing him because we can see the stubbornness in a lot of what Erik ten Hag does. Some flexibility in other areas, but I think with the keeper, once you sort of go down the route of admitting you've made a huge mistake and trying to change the number one in the first season, it's really difficult to do that. And I think he will balance. Obviously, he knows Andre Onana better than all of us because he's had him before, and he's going to just keep banking on. I know there's a bit of consistency. I know it. I know that when he calms down and when he stops making these mistakes, the odd one might go in, yes, but it won't be like this. But I think if he gambles and starts changing him and second guessing him, it's a longer road for him to get back up.
Yeah.
Which is probably true. I know we can say, listen, mate, you're a professional footballer. If you get dropped for a game, you know, as a keeper, get back in it. But it isn't as easy as that. When you've been bought as a David De Gea replacement at Man United, you know, most highly scrutinized position in English football, as Gary Neville said, like, it's different. And if the manager shows any weakness in it, even though we're showing it as fans, we're like, nah, this guy's not it, forget it. If the manager does it, he's lost him. And that's a big problem because we've just spent, 50 million on him, 47 million, whatever it was.
Yeah, this was something that I was also saying the other day, that I see a lot of this call of just, like for instance, you did it with Anthony. He wasn't playing while you drop him. But that for me isn't oversimplification because it's a goalkeeper. And like a goalkeeper, you've seen it at like Arsenal. The moment you start swapping and
Look at
changing
Ramsdale.
all that kind
Look
of
at him
stuff,
when he comes in. He's a bag of nerves.
It causes a storm. It does cause a storm. And that's what makes it difficult for Erik ten Hag, because once he's dropped, not that he can't be undropped or anything like that, but it just creates a bigger scene. And you have to weigh up what's more beneficial. Is it beneficial me taking him out of the side when his confidence is low and maybe shattering it? And then when he comes back in, does he recover? Or do I keep him in, playing through, and run the risk of him making more mistakes? It's a challenging one.
Can I ask you a question? Ask the community a question. It's not going to happen. I'm just asking.
Yeah.
We got to the end of the season.
Yeah.
Would you take Aaron Ramsdale?
Aaron Ramsdale? Yeah. No, I wouldn't. No.
So you think is Onana better than Aaron Ramsdale? Because the best version of Aaron Ramsdale, like last season's version of him.
No, but I think the best version of Andre Onana is better than the best version of Ramsdale, because we saw a close to best version of Onana in the Champions League final. My thing is with that is I'm not sure how often Onana can get to that. That's the problem. Yeah. I think that a lot of people focused on that Champions League final, and which, make no mistake, Onana was brilliant in that Champions League final. He did very well throughout the Champions League tournament last year with Inter Milan. But was that a complete representation of Andre Onana? I don't know. And also, you're talking about Ramsdale. If Erik ten Hag had made the decision of this isn't working out, I'm going to go with someone else, I wouldn't want that someone else to be Aaron Ramsdale. I'd want that someone else to be much better.
To be the right solution.
Much better.
Exactly. I 100% agree.
That's a lateral move for me.
But Lil Yo-Yo says, no, a man with low concentration, because obviously that thing where he said he needs to be concentrated. Well, I would look at the concentration of Andre Onana. Clearly, it's not there, is it? He does mad stuff as well.
Put it this way: the thing is, we say with Ramsdale, could you see Ramsdale do what Onana did in the Champions League final last season?
No chance.
No,
he's not that type of keeper. He can't. Which is why, even in the first place, Arteta thought, he wanted to go in a different direction. Like it wasn't even that Ramsdale done anything bad. It's just that a better goalkeeper became available that he believes will make Arsenal better, and he's gone with that guy.
But you look how Inter were playing in that final as well, and how much they were playing out from the back, which again suited Andre Onana.
Yeah,
you look at that and how we're playing. We're not playing like that at the moment as well. So that is also when you sort of go, well, and Inter didn't concede a ton of chances in that final as well. I think that final was actually way closer than people thought it was going to be honest with you. And it's irony. It's just purely ironic. We signed a player, not just based off that one game, but a player that, in terms of the focus from a fan's point of view, looked at that game, that Champions League final, and went, if we can get that guy, he'd be absolutely incredible. And Champions League performance, and his Champions League performances this season have been terrible. They've been
and again, you don't want to pile on your players like that. That's not what this is about. Yeah, I think some people, I think some idiot on Twitter was tried to clip me and was like, "Oh, look at this toxic." Some idiot. I just blocked him. But some people will try and say, "Oh, to support the guy." But when it came to this, you can't just be like, "Oh, it's fine." Listen, he's find his feet. Come on, no, you have to. That was criminal. That was unfair. That you can't do that. You can't do that.
If it's one game, it's different, isn't it?
If it's something we haven't really seen before, but it's a common theme, it's a common pattern. So I think everybody was well within their rights, and Onana again will understand that. And
look at his reaction.
Players won't obviously come out in interviews, and rightly so. And players won't probably go up to him in the dressing room again, and rightly so, and be like, "You idiot, you've cost us the Champions League. You can't believe you've done that." Because they're a team, it's not going to do them any good. They're at the source of the person of trying to uplift them and make them change. But they'll be going home or in the shower or in the group chat later on the phone. Bruno, fucking hell, man. I know, but Andre didn't. I mean, if it was 3-1, man, we would find that. But anyway, man, I just can't believe it. But hopefully, you can just sort it out. They're going to say that. They're going to feel that. Because they're all going to say, we played all right. We played fine. Not saying we were in total, absolute, complete control. Not going to say that we went there and, welcome to night, welcome to hell. Oh, whatever, mate. You were easy. Like Galatasaray are a decent team, especially there. But we had enough, more than enough to be able to see that game out, or not concede another goal so quickly after getting to 3-1. And the reason why it was because of the goalkeeper. It's as simple as
that. I mean, I kind of pushed back on. I saw people saying, "Oh wow, if we didn't give away those silly free kicks or whatever," and you sort of go, you can't do it that way, because you can't be like, we can't give away anything around the box, otherwise the keeper's going to fumble it in.
We can't. We can't expect our goalkeeper to do his job. That's what you're saying.
Yeah,
that's what you're saying. Don't make any fouls, because remember, any shot will go in.
Will go in.
What we got a keeper for then?
What? Make sure it's like, hey, if you let any shots go in, get hit in the game, that's on you, because you can't save anything.
There's also a tactic. There's also a tactic of, no worries, we're fine here. He's 25 yards from goal. Gonna have to be a worldie from score from there. Don't run out to him. There's things like that where it's like, if someone scores from there, something's wrong. Like, you're allowed to actually physically have that as a tactic. Or there's like, let me tactically foul here because this is quite far out. Like, shouldn't be scoring from here. But he's running through on goal, and if I don't kind of intervene or do something, that we're in worse trouble. So let me break the game down, stop the game. Yeah, it might be a silly free kick. We'll mark up, we'll head it out, and then we go from there. That's football. Players are supposed to make fouls. Like, it happens every day. But a goalkeeper is supposed to save the most basics of shots at any stage. It doesn't matter what stage of the game, doesn't matter what circumstances, doesn't matter if someone shot, doesn't matter if he wasn't looking, whatever. The goalkeeper's always meant to save them. Always. Doesn't matter when. So I'm not buying that at all. Some people tried that yesterday. Oh, Bruno gave away 2 stupid free kicks, though. And come off it. Actually, don't run back with Lucas Torreira when he's like just outside the box and try and do something, and then he can play a through ball and someone just taps it in and you go, where was Bruno? Like, what do you want?
Don't give away free kicks.
The safest places.
Don't give away free kicks, but don't let them take a shot either, because they're both going to go in. It's like, it's a very, very strange argument. And I've seen just in the chat here. Where is it? Kobe Busquets here says, 23rd in the Ballon d'Or voting, literally in 2023, and he's trash. Get a grip. I don't think people are saying that he's trash or anything like that. This is sort of the real extreme version of criticism, is that you're allowed, after you've done that on a consistent basis, there are questions that are going to be raised. Absolutely. And I would also say, if your sort of comparison of he must be good because he was in the Ballon d'Or voting, that's a really bad point of reference.
Yes.
With anything like that. Because we're living in a reality where Emi Martinez is the best goalkeeper in the world, according to all that kind of voting. We're living in a reality where Messi got a Ballon d'Or. He won the World Cup, fair enough. But in terms of like everything else, Erling Haaland, let's face it, the guy got robbed when it came to all that voting.
I still think it should have been Messi.
He did. Robert Lewandowski flex just didn't win it one year. They went, we're going to cancel it because of COVID.
Yeah, I remember that.
And why? I don't know. Even though he won everything pretty much that year, they went, he's just not going to get it. So with all that kind of stuff. So when all that, like, that's not the best point of reference, I would say.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah, to say just because he's in those rankings, it means like, come on, he must be amazing. You know what I mean? Super chats, Aminor, big up to Aminor. Good morning to you, bro. Says, Flex, surely we have to see Bayern given AFCON. Definitely. I think Ten Hag will surely do that. I'd be very surprised if he went with Tom Heaton during AFCON. Otherwise, what was the point in buying this guy? Jay Rose says, I want Eric Ten Hag to succeed. But between his questionable man management, lack of playing style, and his awful talent ID, how do we build a future with him? I have kind of sort of calmed down on that at the minute. I get it, they're valid questions. We can't lose track. But I don't know. How do you feel, Owen, like in the last couple of years? Like, I don't know. I feel a bit like there's some good bits there. I think some good bits are starting to come through where it's not all doom and gloom. Of course, up until this point, we were nicking games and our forwards weren't scoring enough. I think the Everton game was quite a shock, even though it wasn't perfect, but it was quite a shock because kind of it was like one of them games where kind of most of what we did turned to gold, which doesn't normally happen. And then obviously yesterday was Galatasaray was a shock because we did a lot of things right. All the makings were there. It should have been a similar type of game
to Everton. I think, well, you know how I sit on it. Recently, I have been sort of saying that I don't think it's as bad as maybe, say, the media and others have been trying to paint it out to be. It's not great, obviously. And you talk about playing style, it's still not really there. I think we look far more dangerous and we're scoring more goals at the moment. In the Premier League, we are winning more games. I know people are saying, well, let's see what happens at the end of December. I agree. Let's see what happens at the end of December. But I don't know if you can really sack the Manchester United manager upon games that haven't happened yet. So I think people that are raising their expectations that he's got to go because we've got because we've got to play Liverpool at Anfield before Christmas. That logic doesn't really suit for me. When it comes to the talent ID stuff, and I hate that phrase because
it's like the new thing.
Talent ID, toxic positivity. That's another one. Talent ID. With that, I understand that. Look, his signings, particularly the ones over this past summer, let's face it, a lot of them leave a lot to be desired, and that's completely fair enough. But the opposite end of that argument is, so that should be left to the recruitment department, a recruitment department that for a decade has done just as bad. So I think the better thing to look at it as is the entire recruitment process at Manchester United is flawed. It's absolutely flawed. Whether it's the club handling it, whether it's the manager and his agent handling it, they're both not very good at it. So I guess the hope would be that whenever this INEOS thing does happen, let's face it, I thought the announcement's been coming the last 3 weeks. Whenever that does happen, hopefully there'll be better people in charge of that. And then situations like this season don't really happen. So I think this is, people have been making this point a lot recently. Why are you giving the manager a free pass? I don't think we are. I think the manager is not beyond reproach. I can speak for myself. I've criticized him a lot this season. His tactics have been strange at times. His substitutions have been strange at times. Again, the signings haven't worked out. But if you criticize him, that doesn't mean you want him to get sacked. No. And if you sort of point to other points of failure as well, going, well, yeah, I mean, this player's not pulling his weight, or this isn't working out, or this isn't working out, injuries, that's not you giving the manager a free pass either. You know, I keep saying this over and over and over again, but there are shades of grey to this thing, you know, and I'd still, with all of this going on, said it before the Champions League game, said it after the Champions League game, our season ain't over if we're out of the Champions League. It's a blow. It's annoying. It's really frustrating because we should get out of that group. But I'm not one of these people that's like, just write it off. It doesn't matter. We don't want to be in the Champions League. Of course we want to be in the Champions League. It's what we fought last season to get in. But at the same time, if we do go out, which looks like it's going to happen, at the end of the season, there's still a long way to go. You can still have a successful season. We can still get in the top 4. We're only a couple of points off it. And all of these teams that we think are way ahead of us and the projects way ahead of us, you'd be surprised how close we actually are. You know, we might not be completely on par, but you've got to take it week to week at the same time too.
Yeah, and I just think, obviously, it's also about this batch of games, isn't it? Like, it started off against Everton and we were pleasantly surprised. I think the manner of the draw, because you've got to remember we didn't lose, but obviously because of what happened in the game and how it happened and now what it means for the group, it feels like a loss. It feels negative. But we all looked at that game and know why we didn't win. You know, also what we didn't really speak enough about, actually, I don't want to keep harping on about the Galatasaray game because we do need to look forward. We've got a massive game tomorrow, which could go really wrong if we have a bad performance. But we didn't talk enough about, actually, even at 3-3, we calmed down. Bruno hit the post. Palestri had good chances. McTominay, we even made more chances after that. We looked the most likely to get a fourth. You know, when does that happen? So, again, we looked at Palestri and lack of quality, lack of decision-making. McTominay, when he should have maybe slid in, think Martial took the shot, shouldn't have done that. Bruno, unlucky, good strike, hits the post. Goal line, when it was near the end and Palestri nearly got, we were pushing for a winner. They nearly did it after the keeper's done us over. So there were a lot of positives there. But I think it's because because these batch of games are really hard, we're one game away from having a real bad result in this bit. Let's just say tomorrow, for instance. Let's just say Newcastle away tomorrow. Let's say we get rinsed like we got rinsed there last season. I mean, I remember that game vividly because I remember how we got run up on and it was only 2-0, I think, but it should have been so much more.
And then the end of the game, he made some very strange subs. He took both centre-backs off. Yeah. And it got really weird.
That was it. So we got, because again, and you want to feel like we can stand up in these tough, hostile away atmospheres. Like Copenhagen, we'd be like, no, going to be hostile. How are we going to deal with that? 2-0 up, cruising, 35 minutes. Rashford gets sent off. It all goes to shit. Galatasaray, no chance. We definitely ain't winning there. 2-0 up, cruising, everything's fine. Managed not to win. Everton, 10 points deduction, mate. Gonna get steamrollers. Sean Dyche, 3-0. Newcastle, they run around everywhere. They've beaten Arsenal, beaten Spurs, beaten Chelsea. No way Man United are going to go there. Can we go and do something? Or do we just get steamrolled?
Yeah.
Then after that, I think
this
in
is
a
what's
few
weird.
games time, Liverpool away, you know what's coming next. So it
Yeah.
feels like if those things happen in any moment now, we're going to feel like we're back to square one, but we have to try not to believe that.
Yeah, and this is what's weird with it, though. And this is where I do sympathise with Erik ten Hag, because let's say, and not like the majority of people don't expect us to win against Newcastle at St James's Park, but if we do, it still won't be good enough for some people. So if we win, there will be an asterisk over the top of it. They'll be like, well, Newcastle got a lot of injuries, actually. You know what I mean? So I do sympathise with him because he can't win a lot of the times. I mean, someone mentioned it in the chat just there. People were talking about how he's going to be sacked in a month or whatever. He's in the running for manager of the month. Because he's got the best. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I'd love if he got it. What's that?
You know what I mean?
5 out of 6.
And guess who's in one of those? Guess who's been nominated for Player of the Month, Flex?
Bruno.
Harry Maguire.
Oh, I'd love if he got it. That'd be good, isn't it? That'd be brilliant.
And it's pretty sure. Is it public voting? I think it is as well, by the way. So chances are,
because it's Harry Maguire.
Chances are, like Rashford got it a lot last season, and Ten Hag got it a few times because basically, like if it's a public vote, we're winning. Let's be honest. Like the fan base is that strong. We'll make sure Harry Maguire.
We'll make sure it's Harry Maguire who wins as well. Yeah.
With him and Eric, you know what I mean. So I don't know. I mean, like we won't get too much into it because obviously the preview will come later today. But I don't know. I said before, like I was actually somewhat more confident about the game at the weekend than I was midweek, purely because our Premier League form is so different to our Champions League form at the moment.
Yeah, and it's just gonna be interesting to see.
But like
Newcastle away,
I watched, and I get that, and I watched the game against Chelsea last weekend, and I know on the face of it, you go, look, they battered them 4-1, so you should be quite concerned. But actually, Chelsea did a Man United collapse in that game.
They imploded. Yeah, they imploded. In like 90 seconds, they conceded 2 goals.
Conceded 2, red
gave
card.
Away goals. Yeah,
silly red
passed
card.
It, to Target Silva, just passing it straight to, was it Joe Linton or whoever it was? Or Gordon, can't remember who it was. But
and they've basically got 11 players at the moment. Like their bench is outrageous.
But obviously their first 11. Yeah, exactly. They've got youngsters coming in. What are you saying? Play Cobby. I mean, they're playing 17-year-old Lewis Miley in midfield.
Yeah, he did really well. He did really well.
Yeah, against PSG. Yeah. Jerry Rose says, I said that one. Wajid, big up to you. Says David De Gea was sacrificed by this fan base for less than what Onana has done. Erik ten Hag has to do what Pep did with Bravo if this carries on and cut his losses. Yeah, we can't act like we haven't seen it before. You know, Joe Hart straight out. You're not for me. And got in Claudio Bravo. Claudio Bravo, not it. See you later. And then I think he got Edison after that, didn't he? So yeah. Andy H been a member for 17 months. Is that the longest? Don't think I've seen it as high as 17 months, unless I've missed something.
I always remember that Star-Lord was the very first. Star-Lord was the very first member. So it might be, I think it might be a few people on 17 or 18 months. Yeah.
17, 18. Wow, one of the originals. Big up to you, Andy H. Thank you for that. In more positive news, I love seeing our phase of play in attack. We get in goals across the front three and Wan-Bissaka assist. Even Maguire confident. Yeah, like Maguire's been playing really good. He's been playing really well. Like just not making any mistakes. Looks quite assertive. Winning his headers. Stepping in and being aggressive and winning the ball. Trying to get us on the front foot. What?
So you weren't on the full view the other day, but KG, he started the show by saying, I'm going to do a reckless take. We've got to keep Harry Maguire. I'll give you time for that. I'll give you time. I'll give you time for it. And you know what the worst thing is, actually? Whilst you're processing that, he was convincing other people on the panel and they were sort of agreeing with him. I can see Minna's laughing in the chat. She backed it. She backed it as well. I couldn't believe, and obviously, you know, Marcel, well maybe. But if it's positive, if it's what Eric wants, you know, all that kind of stuff. I couldn't believe it. Even Good Vibes John was, you know.
Well, it would be the most Man United-like thing to happen. Like there's a player that we've seen stylistically in the long run isn't where we want to be at, where in the eventual nature of this team, but he's gone for a half decent period, so we give him a new deal and stick with it. Or it would be such a Man United thing to do. But I think if we're going to stay on track for where this team truly wants to be, which is what Erik ten Hag gave us an inkling, really, because I honestly still believe, obviously it's all circumstance and taking your chances, which Harry Maguire deserves massive credit for.
Yeah,
he deserves huge credit for that. But I still believe if Martinez didn't get injured, he'd be going with Martinez and Varane. That was what he wanted all last season. That is what he started this season with. And very quickly, it all unfolded in front of him where he had to. And then don't get me wrong, it did become weird where now you just have to give Harry Maguire his full flowers and say, he right now is keeping Rafael Varane on sheer ice. Like Rafael Varane is nowhere near getting a game at the minute.
No.
Nowhere near.
Yeah. And that's not saying that,
it's
are you
crazy.
saying Maguire's better than Varane? No, it's just at the moment, Ten Hag's going with a player that's in form and available most of the time. But then to be fair, you mentioned the injury thing. You could say the same about Wan-Bissaka. He was nowhere near. And then Dalla got injured after the World Cup. And then suddenly Dalla comes back and it's like, mate, actually.
When they're both back fit. What will be interesting, I think the true test is let's see what happens when Martinez gets back. Because when's that? Probably January now? He was training by himself now. So
probably
it's 1st of December.
Yeah.
Let's say all of December. Maybe mid to late Jan. He might be able to come back. I think that's about fair. Maybe early Feb. If Harry Maguire's been playing as well as he had in the absence of the pairing that Ten Hag wanted, what does he do? Because it would be like a whole good sample size of Harry Maguire playing well. Would he throw him under the bus and go back to what he wanted and get the Ghost of Rafe the Phantom in? When also he may have looked at it and gone, Rafa's decided he wants to leave anyway. Maybe even in January.
Well, this is what I was going to say. This is what will be interesting too. So they are saying
Rafa's not going to do this to the end of the season.
They're saying about those list of positions. Those list of positions, they're saying that, one could be in January a defender. And let's say, hypothetically, if Rafael Varane does go, let's say he goes to Bayern Munich, and we do bring in a Todibo, does Ten Hag be like, right, I know you've been playing well, Maguire, but I've actually got like a new signing who I really like, and Martinez is coming back, so you're kind of back out again. And this was my point I was making on the Full View to KG and Minna and all that. Their point was, well, as a squad player, as a backup player, but my response is that Harry Maguire's already stated he has no interest in being that. Last season, he was out and he was like, I'm going to wait for my spot to get back in, and I will get back in. But before he got back in at the beginning stages of this season, you heard those interviews. I'm not going to sit here forever. I'm not going to wait on the bench forever.
Yeah. And I'm not playing. I'm gone.
And let's face it, I think the general consensus might be that if things were able to be worked out in the summer, depending on who you believe, whether it was, West Ham never put in a high amount of money for United, or United couldn't pay Maguire off, all that kind of stuff. If that had been figured out, he would have gone to West Ham. Like, he would have, if we could figure out the compensation or the fee was high enough, like that would have happened. So still, long term, he's not the right solution or anything like that. I think his contract's up at the end of, is it next season?
Next season,
I think next season we've got the option.
So he will be going into his last year.
But we're getting to the point where we've got to make, something's got to happen there realistically. Yeah. So I still say Varane, he might go first. It might be January, or they both might go in the summer. Both of them, I don't see long term them being in a United shirt, honestly. And it will be interesting to see if we do bring in a new centre back in January, what happens to Maguire then? Because the desire, one would think, from Ten Hag's point of view, would be to bring in the new shiny toy, would it not?
No, I agree. I think it's going to be really fascinating to see how that plays out, because it's just, when it, like, you get a moment and then you remember. So I was like, when you're looking in the Galatasaray game and then it shows like images of the bench, or Kobe Mainoo was coming on or someone, and then you see Rafa in the back with his bib on, getting up to help someone do something, like, you go, oh yeah, Varane's just on the bench. It's just like nowhere near playing. Like, it's crazy. You just go, right, I just never thought that I would see that. Big up to everyone in the chat. Smash a like. Just under 1,000 people watching live. Can we get to 1,000? Hit a share. Share it in your WhatsApp group chats. Put it on your socials that we're live. Say tune in. You know what I mean? Another 45 or so people. We can get to 1,000 people. And we can get to 200 likes as well. That's the challenge. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're at 160 now. We can get to 200 likes. The next bit we want to talk about just a little bit of the INEOS situation, because me and Owen were saying before we went live, it's weird how obviously international break, beginning of it, INEOS, when's the announcement? And then, like you said, and rightly so, we get our games back and the emotion of what's happening, and it's like it just goes on the back burner. And it was almost like when I saw the INEOS thing, what we're about to talk about now, I was like, oh yeah, INEOS. Forgot about that.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. So Sammy Mockbull from the Daily Mail has said that Sir Jim Ratcliffe is set to instruct a new look Manchester United recruitment team to prioritise homegrown talent. Ratcliffe is eager to see more of a domestic presence, particularly within the core of the team. The fact prospective signings have already experienced the rigours of English football is viewed as a key reason why INEOS feel buying British would be beneficial. United are currently among clubs closely monitoring Brentford striker Ivan Toney ahead of the next two transfer windows. Tony is expected to leave in the summer, but United are set to face Arsenal and Chelsea for his signature. Man United are also interested in Mark Gahey, but the England defender is unlikely to be available until the summer and will cost a minimum of £60 million. So where do you want to start with that one, Flex? Do you want to start with sort of the British core to the team?
Yeah, let's start
the
there.
British backbid with the British core of the team. A lot of buzzwords.
Put the Manchester back into United, was it?
Yeah, Manchester back in Man United, something like that.
That was it. Yeah, something like that, which did rub a lot of people up the wrong way. A lot of people liked that, but I think a lot of people at that point, when the two statements were put out, there was a big lean towards Qatar when that happened. But anyway, that's all apples and oranges now. It's all in the past. But I think you have to you have to be really careful. I'm not saying we have to believe that. I'm not saying we should all hit the panic button now and go, oh my God, so Jim Ratcliffe's going to come in and bring back Dan James and make sure we go and buy bloody Harry Wilson and
keep Maguire, keep McTominay, keep
Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think we should panic, but I think that would be a dangerous sort of line to be going down. Of course, I do like to have young English players, if they're good enough, coming through. You know,
let's face it. Look at the English squad at the moment.
Exactly. It's a really exciting time. It's a really exciting time for young English players. And if you look at the under-21 squad, there's some brilliant players coming through. So, you know, you look at someone like Timo Livramento as well, and it's like, I think he can actually choose Portugal as well. I think trying to get him to maybe commit to England. But like, there's some good players coming through, man. So Kobbie Mainoo as well. So it's like, I don't mind that. I don't mind trying to make sure you secure the best of British talent. Like, if you look at the top teams, you know, Man City have done it. They've got Grealish, they've got Foden, they've got Stones, they've got, is that it? Yeah,
they've got Rico
Walker.
Lewis.
Oh no, he's not young. Rico Lewis. Yeah, exactly. So it happens. You know,
they had Cole Palmer.
They had Cole Palmer. You know, Chelsea obviously got a player like that. Chelsea got. I know Conor Gallagher isn't like amazing and all that, but they're nurturing him. He's been better than Enzo Fernandez, who's 120 million quid. Yeah. They're Levi Colwill. You know, they've got Reece James. Look at Liverpool. They've got Harvey Elliott is a really handy player.
Obviously Trent.
Trent's obviously brilliant. Arsenal, they've got Saka, they've got Declan Rice. You know, it's a thing. It's a thing. So I don't mind. So if we try to get Mark Gahey, I wouldn't be angry. I think Mark Gahey would be an excellent signing. Of course, to kind of move it on a bit, he would be in excess of like 60 million in the summer. He's a huge player for them with what they've done with him and the likes of Anderson and Eze and Elise. When those players leave Palace, they're going for big money. That's just what it's going to be because they're good. They're good players. But Eze, like, I'm sorry, Gahey, you know, you could argue that. I know it's always Harry Maguire, but in the future of England, you know, that could look like Gahey and Stones, or Levi Colwill and Stones, or, you know, whatever. Gahey's really pushing now. Yeah. And you go to a big club like Man United and start really performing, then it elevates you again in the England squad. So I'm not mad at that if it's the right players. But to go back to the INEOS thing, it can't just be, you know, your whole model's on only trying to get the next young British Wayne Rooney, the next Foden all the time. It can't be just that, because on the continent, that's where the value really is as well. Obviously, coming through your academy to get young English players and stuff, but when you start trying to buy them, like Chelsea had to pay 40-something million for Cole Palmer.
Yeah,
so, I mean, Lewis Hall went to Newcastle for like 36 million.
Yeah, I mean, you look at, like, for instance, Declan Rice is a really interesting example of all this, because I think people fear signing English players they fear signing English players, for instance, because of what happened with us and Harry Maguire. You know what I mean? 80 million, you go, not reflective of money. But I think Declan Rice is a fantastic example of, still to this day, the transfer fee is not reflective of his actual value. Over 100 million, you guys, it's ridiculous. But it's a good example of, but if you play well, nobody gives a shit.
They're even saying it's a bargain. It's a bargain.
nobody's talking about that price tag.
He's been unbelievable.
Exactly. So that's the interesting thing, is that we always say this about transfers, don't we? That the price and all that kind of stuff. People only talk about the price when they don't live up to it. If they play well.
Jack Grealish won the treble last year, playing pretty much all the games and doing all right, it was. Yeah, I mean, he was shit last year. And he was like, why'd you spend 100 million in? But look, he's been part of the treble winning side and played near enough all the games. Ironically, now they've got Doku in a different situation. But, you know what I mean? No one said it's just an absolute waste of money.
Like you look at Anthony Gordon at the moment, Newcastle. I remember when he signed for
Everyone
Newcastle
laughed.
last season. I did as well. When he's rubbish
Yeah, I
because he
did.
played for Everton, he wasn't that good.
Remember when he nearly went
now,
Chelsea for like 60 million? We're like, who does this kid think he is? Just stay at Everton.
Yeah.
Relax yourself.
Got on a strike and that kind of stuff. You watch him now go, he's all right, actually. He's pretty good.
He's
So,
consistent, man.
so this is the point, actually. At the moment, for whatever reason, sometimes it's cyclical, sometimes it just happens in football, but there are a lot of good English players around, actually, you know? So it's not the worst thing in the world. And that's not to say that you should, like you said, you should exclude people across Europe or anything like that, or not go to South America and try and find these gems of players. Look at Real Madrid and how well they've done with that, right? Look at Brighton with how they've just signed these people just from around the world. You go, where on earth did they find them? So that's not to say you should ignore it, but at the same time, you should ignore the English players too. When it comes to the players like Ivan Toney, I'm happy to be clipped, and I hope I'm wrong. And I hope in like 18 months' time, I was like, oh, massively wrong. Receipts on myself. We ain't signing Ivan Toney.
Okay. Why aren't we?
He's going to go to Arsenal or Chelsea.
Okay.
Like he is.
Because they will come in January and do it, or end of the season? Like if he doesn't move in January, could we get him?
No, we're not going to get. No, we're not going to get him.
Just never. He's just not on our radar. We're just not going to get him.
We're not going to get him. No.
Okay.
Let
us know what you feel.
Let us know in the chat. Like I said, I'm happy to be wrong on that one because I like Ivan Toney, great striker, but he was literally on a podcast saying that he supports Arsenal or something like that. Arsenal need a striker. Arsenal are right now one of the best teams in England. They are like a striker away. I mean, this KG last season, we're a striker away from competing for the league. Legitimately, Arsenal are.
We got the striker. Look where we are.
Legitimately, Arsenal are like a striker where you would think.
A striker and one midfielder. Like, because Partey's not there, and it's like you got to mix and match.
He's already based in London as well, so it's the move, the relocation. It's not that big of a deal.
They're a 20-goal man away, aren't they?
Yeah, and when it comes to like, and even if it's not
even
Arsenal,
that might
Chelsea,
not be enough because City is City.
And even if it's not Arsenal, I know you could say, well, Chelsea, they're still struggling, all that kind of stuff, but Chelsea are such a strange project because I slated Chelsea during the summer transfer window. I've slated them during this season. But in January, they'll still sign probably like 4 or 5 players and spend £250 million because they just will somehow, some way, and sign people to like a massive long contract or something like that. I know the rules have changed a bit. You can only spread the transfer fee over 5 years, but you can still sign these long contracts. So you never know. Chelsea might gazump Arsenal again.
Well, and Chelsea are the sort of project which we clearly can see. They just will keep going and going until they get something that looks like what they want to see.
It's like, it's still, they've done like 2 years of it now, and it's still like, we're still the same. We've still got these massive problems. They spent all this money, and yet they still put out starting 11s that you go, I don't know about that starting 11. That needs a lot more money.
But then there's some players in it where you're like, actually, that can work. That's, you know.
But then, like I said, I saw them last weekend. I was like, fuck. My God. Like, and again, that's when you go, if that was Man United in terms of that amount of money spent in this short amount of time.
Oh, ours is over 10 years and look at the scrutiny we've got. They've done it in a year. 1 year.
It's crazy. It's crazy. But going back to the original point, we ain't getting Ivan Toney. We're not getting Ivan Toney.
I don't think.
What do you think, Flex?
No, I don't think we'll get Ivan Toney. I think he's nailed on to go to or be involved with the 2 teams you just said in Arsenal and Chelsea. And if he doesn't go in January for whatever reason, when you get to the summer, it's going to be big money. You know, it's going to be big money even in January for Ivan Toney. What would Ivan Toney cost? 70, 80 million?
Well, he's Brentford's most valuable player, isn't he? So they would get bang for their buck. No doubt about that.
70, 80 million. And if we went to the summer, you know, it gives them time to, you know, put a bit of price up as well. Still, it wouldn't be far off.
And if you are Toney, you'd probably have a situation where you'd say to Brentford, look, I found myself with my ban and all that kind of stuff. You helped me through it. I want to make sure that I help you with the departure. Because Brentford, they're not like naive in the sense of they'll go like,
I think he'll only do that. I think he'll only do that if it was like it was pre-signed and guaranteed. I think if Arsenal came and they're like, listen, this is our plans now. We've allocated the money. We want you now. And he wouldn't go, can you just wait for the summer because he's going to look after.
No, I mean more so that I meant that not in terms of going to the summer. I meant in terms of the money. So if being like, I want to make sure that you get a fair value for money, sort of thing. So maybe like he and his agents go to Arsenal, going, look, Brentford have said if you give us 60, 65, I'll go. They'll accept that sort of thing. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know, but he's
not coming Man United.
No, he's not.
Yeah. M Sati, thanks for super chat, says encourage people to vote for Harry Maguire. Make a video, UV. Let's make a video to vote for Harry Maguire for player of the month. Listen, we won't make a video.
We would never live it down.
But no, we won't make a video. But as I'm saying it now, maybe you can clip it and put it up and get it circulating. Guys, Harry Maguire's the redemption story behind this guy's been absolutely brilliant from ridicule to rejoice. You know, unbelievable mentality shown. He's the most informed defender alongside William Saliba in the league, and our form reflects that in the Premier League. Vote Harry Maguire. There you go. Take that and, you know, do something with it.
There you go.
Do something with it. Yeah, do something with it. Imagine, I would love him to win though. That'd be wicked. That would be.
Oh, I would. But again, wicked. Like it won't matter. You know what I mean? Like
he shouldn't be winning that, but it's just.
They'll be like, see, blame Man United fans. It's not a real trophy. When Ange wins Manager of the Month, by the way, congratulations, Ange. You've done really well. Great manager, doing really well. If Ten Hag wins Manager of the Month, bloody rigged voting United fans. They shouldn't even do it. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter Manager of the Month. This is what I mean. Goalpost flex, lifted up, shift, moved every single time. Media, disgrace.
Every single time. What have we got coming up for you later on? Obviously, the presser. We will have that from Owen live. Have they said a time? 1:30, 2 p.m.
It'll be. I'll be live about 2 o'clock. I think the press conference is 1:45. Although there's a weird thing with the press conference whereby I think it actually takes place at 1:30. Then it gets televised at 1:45, and then we go live.
Then there's spoilers before you even go live of all the quotes of what was actually said. It's a bit crazy. But all of the information will be there. Hopefully, Højlund's okay. You know, he took him off. I think he'll be fine. In terms of injury news and what we might be expecting from this press conference, really quickly before we wrap up, what could we be expecting? Obviously, Rashford is back available to play.
Yeah. He'll be asked about Onana a lot. He'll be asked about Onana a lot. About that. And he'll back him. He'll say, you know, he said what he said earlier on in the season when he goes, Andre knows he needs to improve, but it's not just about him. It's about us as a team. He said it the other day, where it's like, we need to defend better, but we feel this is a project. We're heading in the right direction. And
we also had chances that we should have scored. We need to be scoring more. Yeah. Exactly. He won't throw anyone on the bus. But in terms of anything significant, there's not going to be anything on Martinez. There's not going to be anything on Eriksen. There's not going to be anything on who else? Mason Mount. They were long term, weren't they? So yeah, I think I don't know. Not to say don't tune into the press conference, by the way, because tune in, but
it's gonna be rubbish. Don't tune in.
I've basically just said I don't really know what he's gonna say, apart from but you never know.
But also what I will say with that, I will be live though 10:45-ish this evening, because sometimes the second part of it is the best bit, and I won't do what I did last week when I think the embargo bit's coming out on the Friday night, and it didn't.
Did it not come out?
Well, it was a Sunday game, so it comes out on the Saturday.
Oh yeah. Oh right, well, our game's definitely.
So late night news might not happen on a Friday.
Yes, it's just as you go. And obviously we will have a preview as well for the Liverpool game, for the Newcastle game.
The Liverpool game is early. It's good, but I like that flex. Getting in early, making sure for the Liverpool game, we got to make sure.
Four games ahead, mate. 4 games ahead. And actually, as someone said there, Malacia maybe. Hopefully, Malacia is back. Kobe Busquets says Malacia as well. Joe Blackman, as he always does, and it's a perfect way to end the show. Please drop a like on the way out, people. The channel really appreciates the love and thank you. Big up to you guys. See you again later on today at some point. Take care. Peace.